I'm Lola Garneau with the LTV Community Intern Project, and today I'm here with Alexis Dawson from Special Olympics New York, and she is the Director of Development. Thank you for being here today, Alexis.
Thank you for having me.
So today I would like to ask a few questions about what Special Olympics New York is all about and how our community can be more involved with the population of intellectually disabled community members on the East End. So could you share a little bit about Special Olympics New York as a whole and the goals that the organization strives to achieve?
Sure. So, Special Olympics New York is a nonprofit organization. We offer 22 Olympic-style sports to athletes with intellectual disabilities. This comes at no cost to them, their coaches, or their caregivers. So with that, our goal is to raise funds for these athletes in order for them to compete. Our athletes are training all year round. And we also offer our unified programming, which is where athletes with and without intellectual disabilities compete on the same team together. Our organization is all about inclusion, and that is our goal.
So how did you end up at Special Olympics New York, and could you share a little bit about what your role as the director of development is at Special Olympics?
So I got the job straight out of college. So I've been with Special Olympics for a little over 5.5 years now. And my job is to raise money for our athletes. So some of the ways I do that is through polar plunges, golf outings. We have law enforcement torch runs, which are awareness runs for our law enforcement partners, and miscellaneous grants, like local community grants and stuff like that.
Awesome. So I know Special Olympics is very sports focused, but this past year I'm very involved with East Hampton High School's life skills program and the unified sports and everything like that. So I was able to go to a seminar at Southampton High School and learn about Special Olympics, which was more about the road to inclusion and just learning how to include this population. So how could you see a smaller town like East Hampton achieving community outreach between these two different populations, whether it be school-oriented, with younger groups, or with the older populations of intellectually disabled?
So, East Hampton is actually doing a great job of starting that right now. They have their East End programming where they work with West Hampton Beach and Southampton, and they have a few different teams going right now. I believe they have basketball, soccer, and bowling. So they are really starting to incorporate other schools within the East End of Long Island, which is great. And then the other way to get the community involved is through fundraising events. So we do a couple of fundraising events out on this end of the island, which is one of our torch runs. We do that from Montauk, and it runs to East Hampton. And then we have our Splish Splash Polar Plunge, which takes place at the water park.
So what is the best way for someone that would want to volunteer to get involved with one of those events?
Sure. So if it's a student, I would suggest going to their teachers first or their athletic directors to get involved that way, or they can reach out to our office directly, and we can give them, the best way to go about starting something.
Mm-hmm. And for adults, it's kind of this similar thing, going to the website?
Going to the website, or just looking at their community calendars and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So as you work with the development department in Special Olympics, what does Special Olympics New York see in their future in the next few years?
So our goal is to really increase our unified programming, which, like I mentioned, the East End is starting to do. So we really want to be in every single school. We want every single school out here to have a unified program, and we also want them to be coming out to our fundraising events.
Awesome. So I know that most events for Special Olympics New York can be very upstate, be very far upstate, or pretty far up island. So do you think it's possible for us to reach out with Special Olympics and do an organizational thing where we can do Special Olympic events in East Hampton or somewhere in the East End?
I absolutely think you can. Like I mentioned, we have our Splish Splash Polar Plunge, which takes place in April, and we are always looking for more fundraising opportunities on the East End. So if the East End in particular would like to do a special event, we'd be more than happy to work that out. And I know the coaches on the East End are really working to grow their different competitions and things like that. West Hampton Beach just hosted a unified field day where they had probably I think like 5 schools come out, and they just kind of did different physical activities together. So it was a nice way to get other schools involved, and I know they're looking to do more of that in the future.
So could you just elaborate a little bit more about some of those sporting events that you talked about, that like Special Olympics, like the fundraising and how much money it is for each person to pay? Like, can you talk about maybe like the Glen Falls convention and everything like that?
So Special Olympics New York, we have the misconception is that our athletes only compete once a year. We have 3 state games. So we have winter, summer, and then we have fall. On a local level for Long Island, we have our Long Island Spring Games, which takes place in May. And then in the fall, we have our Fall Classic. That takes place early October. And then we have some competitions that our athletes from the East End will actually travel to that are located in Queens. So our athletes compete all year round in a multitude of different sports. So I know athletes that do swimming, floorball, soccer, bocce. So our athletes are constantly competing. And through regional competitions, they then qualify for states, and from states they can go on to USA Games and then World Games. One of the coaches out here on the East End, Brian Tenney from Southampton, he actually had the honor of going to USA Games last year in Orlando.
Oh, that's really cool. I was wondering, what do you think is like the most rewarding thing that you've gotten from working with Special Olympics and like, helping this program develop?
I would say just being around our athletes and our coaches. Our athletes love to compete. They also love to help us out too. So we have a multitude of athletes that come out to a lot of our fundraising events, and they will assist us. And they also raise money. And then we have athletes like Matt Schuster. He's a longtime athlete. He comes to our office once a week and he volunteers and helps us out.
That's really great. So thank you so much for your time, and I would look forward to see where Special Olympics New York is going to take the East End. And thank you all for watching. I'm Lola Garneau again with the LTV Community Intern Project.